Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Today I'm going to walk you through this DIY. The reason I want to walk you through it is because some of those clips, I don't know, they're pretty useless. So I'm going to talk you through it and whatever, cut over to the good stuff when I get to it. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and give me a like. That's all you got to do. Do nothing else. If you really like the stuff you see, go ahead and subscribe. If you don't like the stuff you see, too bad. I don't know. There's hundreds of YouTube channels you could watch besides mine. But anyway, let's move over to the DIY. So in this video, I'm just gonna cover the install of the Walbro 450 fuel pump. And this is pretty much the same for the 525, the Hellcat fuel pump everybody talks about. So originally, I found a really good DIY online on a forum. It's pretty old. So I was like, I'm gonna go do that because that looks very clean. Basically, the fuel pump on our cars, they sit inside this compartment, and basically this compartment goes inside of the other, actually the fuel cage. And I really wanted the 450 fuel pump, because it's nice and fat at the bottom, to just fit nice in here and whatever. So I started to bore the whole thing out. So I was boring this thing out to basically make the fuel pump fit. Now, it really wasn't that painful. It was really pretty easy. I was using a die grinder and like whatever, a bit, nothing really special from Harbor Freight. But I was, being about as careful as I could, going step by step, and I got the fuel pump to the point where it fits. But when I got to it, and I'll see if I can show you here, but when I got to it, you see that open spot there? That's not supposed to be like that. You see this part is closed, and then a whole bunch of gunky black shit came out of here. And out of the bottom, you see that black stuff, and I was like, okay, well, I can fit it, but do I want to deal with all that nasty stuff being in my fuel system? The answer was no. The answer was no way am I gonna put up with having to possibly take another fuel pump out again after switching fuel pumps 4 times. So I did decide to simplify this. I didn't cut the bottom of my fuel cage. I wanted the fuel cage to remain full, about as full as possible. And I thought that if I cut the bottom off, the fuel pump is going to be grabbing possibly bubbles and whatever. So I see a lot of guys cutting out the bottom of the fuel cage. I didn't want to do that. I'm like, this, it doesn't look very good to me. And also, I thought about it almost like an oil sump setup, where if you can keep the fuel contained in there, the better off you are. So that's why I didn't do that. So there was a little bit of a rush to do this, even though I took my time and I recorded a ton of videos, and I went through the process of boring this stupid thing out, but it ended up not working. So once I decided to do that, I was like, okay, this is gonna be a lot simpler. I did put a sock on the fuel pump to reduce noise, just to make it a little quieter or whatever. But to be honest, I don't know, I don't really hear the fuel pump. I mean, you obviously hear it when you prime it or when you start it or whatever. It's louder than stock. But yeah, I'm really happy with the setup. I went to the Poconos the couple days later, right after I did the fuel pump and all. I had to do a ton of tuning just to get my fuel in line, and I'm not experienced when it comes to tuning. I'm just messing around with my own car. So the fuel pump basically sits inside the cage. I strapped it down with some zip ties, some really strong, heavy-duty zip ties. I didn't want to use clamps, but you could use clamps too. I thought the zip ties would hold a little bit better. So yeah, that was that was good. And also the sock helped reduce the noise. The return feeds right back into the fuel cage, so you're getting fuel back in the cage. And like I said, because there's no hole at the bottom, fuel is staying there. And the one issue that I used to have, and I used to have this issue all the time, even from before I did a fuel return, is I would get to like a quarter tank, and let's say I would do one pull, let off the gas, and let the car drop to like, let's say only 6,000 RPM, and go right back in. The car would just cut out, just lean out, and lo and behold, the whole time that was a fuel pump. So so this fuel pump, honestly, it's way easier if you commit to what I did, and I'll show you all the videos here. If you commit to what I did, this is a way easier fuel pump to do than any other one. There is a flap at the bottom of the fuel cage, and that flap, what it does is it allows fuel to get in, but not out. So I made sure I left that in there. Again, just to keep the fuel in the fuel cage. And that was my philosophy behind that. And ever since then, all of my fuel issues have basically gone away. I mean, and by basically, I mean like I don't have any fuel issues. I bought a fuel pressure gauge. I put it in the car because of this, because I'm like, once you sort of find an issue like that, you sort of get scarred by it, and you sort of what's the word? You're sensitive to it. So I wanted to make sure that I had fuel pressure all the freaking time. So that's why the thing is there. I put it on there, and by the thing, I mean the pressure gauge. Because I went on a dyno, and this is kind of how I found out that I really had big issues. I went to a dyno, and just to see what the fuel pressure was, and that cost me about $150, $160. And I'm here thinking like, okay, if I just buy this gauge for about $200, what the hell? Like, I could save myself a whole lot of dyno time. Okay, now for the electrical stuff. This is the stuff that everybody sort of gets really scared about or confused. I'll be the first to tell you it's really very easy. Just take your time, think about what you're doing. I found a diagram for a relay. The diagram is for a 5-pin relay, but I only used 4 pins. Now these relays, I'm gonna put the diagram in the link in the description to help you guys out. So the relay, listen carefully, has the ground, which is labeled 85. It has an 86 pin, an 87, and the 30, which is the battery positive. So you have to already figured out pretty quickly, ground and battery positive. What I did is I labeled each side of the relay. I didn't really have a good marker, but if you have like one of those chalk white markers are really good. But I just put like something to tell me what each pin was on the outside, because I was using a relay connector to make it nice and easy. And the connector had 4 wires, and they're all white. Like, I don't know, if you can get yourself a connector that has different color wires, that'll be helpful, but it's whatever. So 85 goes to ground. I ran the ground through the car, through the side, straight to the front. So the ground is, there's a main ground near the battery in the car, and that's where I put the ground for that. That ground runs to like the transmission and a bunch of other stuff. The battery, same thing. I ran it through the car. I took off the side panels. I have these tools that I use for doing any plastic work. Trust me, dude, like, you'll thank me when I tell you they're worth it. Like, You take off your plastic panels without destroying them, right? So in the diagram, I'm looking down because I printed it and I have notes. In the diagram that I have here, so 87 goes to the old power wire. So there's 4 wires that connect to your fuel pump cage. 2 of them are just for the fuel level, and 2 of them are ground and power for your fuel pump. I figured out on this year car, I don't know if the older night gens are different, but you can just take a look at it and follow the red wire that's from inside the cage. See where that pin is and follow, like you gotta take apart the harness, just not to take it apart, like untape it, remove the tape and get to the wires. For me, the green wire with all the little silver dots, that's the one that powers a fuel pump. Okay, so let's put that there. That wire, I cut it. And I gave myself plenty of room on both sides. So don't cut it too close to the end. Cut it a little bit further back. So I cut that wire. And this part I didn't film too much because number one, it was hot as balls. It was getting late. Yeah, so once you have the green wire cut, you're gonna wanna strip it, and all of this stuff gets soldered. I don't recommend you use butt plugs on any of this stuff. Find yourself a good solder kit. I got this one at Home Depot. It's just, what the hell brand is it? Benzomatic, whatever. Like it's worth the money. Trust me. I wouldn't mess around and try to like butt plug this stuff. So, and heat shrink. Get yourself some heat shrink. You're gonna see in a few of the clips, you see me soldering and using heat shrink, and that's just the proper way to do stuff. And for the wires, so I used, I would have used a 10 gauge or 12 gauge wire. I forgot what I used. Let me see. Yeah, I used 10 gauge wire for most of the stuff. Yeah, 10 gauge. Yeah, 10 gauge wire for most of the stuff. You basically, look, this pump can drain or pull about 22 amps. You don't want a very thin wire that's gonna just burn up on you, especially if you're pulling high boost. The more boost you put into the car, the more amp it's pulling. So the green wire gets cut up, and this is where I'm gonna try to focus on this for you guys, because it's a little bit confusing, but it's really not. So the wire coming from the car, meaning going back to the fuel pump, that half, you splice it into 86 on your relay. Then 87 goes down and feeds power to the fuel pump. So basically, when the green wire it's basically a signal wire at this point, telling the relay to send the power. And this is kind of what I'm talking about here. Now, I will put this up somewhere for you guys in the description. And basically take your time, get some good wires, and take your time soldering. Sometimes if you had never soldered wires before, my advice to you is find some spare wires that you have sitting around, and try it out. I hope this DIY has helped you guys. I'm sorry it took so long. I've been super duper hella busy with a lot of stuff, but there's some really exciting stuff coming out that I want to share with everyone. I'll probably make a separate video and post that in a couple days, but I'm working on something that I think will be useful to the community, to the 9th gen community especially, but the Honda community overall, period. there's there's really exciting stuff coming out from my little garage here, and I hope you guys like it. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me in the comment section. If there's something that I missed, I'm happy to answer it. And I hope the video has been helpful to everyone, like I said. And there's this one guy who hit me up on IG. He's like, dude, when you gonna put up this video? I'm sorry, dude, but you see, man, like, one day I'm out here like at the Poconos doing track days and stuff, and the next day I'm changing diapers. Like that's my life, bro. All right, everybody, thank you for watching. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, everything. Much love to everybody, and go watch Hans's videos. I'll try to put a link down here. He just posted a video. Unfortunately, I gotta be like, yeah, Hans, I told you so. I don't want to say that, but the R40 head sucks for us people who like superchargers, period. So anyway, I'll leave you guys with that. Peace out, man.